Okay, so this week I want to talk about networking, how to do it and how not to do it, because I had an experience with someone this week who was doing it the worst way you can. So the internet, it's extremely powerful. Social media is a hugely powerful thing, and if you use it well, it can benefit you in great ways. If you don't use it well, it can harm you in great ways. Okay, so this all stems from an experience I had with a person on one of my composer nerd forums I am a member of on Facebook, who posted a video making outlandish claims that a very, very famous film composer, who's written a lot of stuff, won awards, is people either love him or hate this composer. Anyway, this guy made an outlandish claim that this composer was going to hire him. And then proceed to say, but he was kind of a douche, his words exactly, because he didn't get hired. And he had this kind of weird story about it. It didn't quite make sense. And I don't know if I fully buy it or not, but that's neither here nor there. So the fact remains, this guy went publicly online, names this Hollywood composer. He's an A-list composer, makes tons of money, writes huge film scores, names him outright, makes this claim that he basically sucks, that this guy is a douche, and says he's a douche because he didn't hire this guy making the video. So, of course, as anyone with a tiny amount of common sense can see coming a mile away, he gets some very polarizing responses. He gets people, heck yeah, I totally agree with you, and he gets people saying, I totally disagree with you. There's even a third camp of people saying, dude, what you're doing is not very smart. I was in that third camp. I was basically said, like it or not, this person is successful. What you're doing is not in the best interest of you. Because he has his name, he has his website, he has his brand. He is putting himself to this opinion. And that's exactly what it is. It's an opinion. It's not a fact. And if he really did have opportunity to work with this Hollywood composer, well, now he sure doesn't, because he's blacklisted himself from this guy. Not very smart, not thinking about the long-term game, only thinking about the short-term game. So let's pull this back a little bit. When you see posts like this, oftentimes they get a lot of responses. Not always positive responses, but they'll get a lot of interaction. If you make a YouTube video that has this kind of polarizing hot button topic, it's going to get a lot of views. It may get a lot of dislikes, and you might have a lot of people disagreeing with you, but the activity is going to be there. And that might be alluring for some of you guys. And I just want to caution you, be very, very careful, because when you go out and you start making claims like this, you might get attention, but it may not be the attention you want. It may not be the attention you need. Particularly if you're putting your brand and your name to it, you have to be extremely careful with online stuff, extremely careful with social media, because it persists and it can follow you around, and it can either greatly enhance or greatly harm your reputation, your career, your standing, all that stuff. If this guy had made a post saying, I disagree with composer X from Hollywood's methods because, and outlines an argument, even if I disagreed with the argument, that's one thing. Unfortunately for this guy, he didn't do that. He named him, he insulted the guy, and he made some pretty outlandish claims towards this guy. You don't want to do stuff like that. On top of that, what the guy did was, I guess he got mad at me for pointing out some things, because I was saying, dude, you should just stop. For your own sake, just stop. So then he links a piece of my music and just puts LOL. Now, this one song of mine was sort of in the vein of this film composer. I've had people say, hey, this sounds like X, and that's fine. This is something a client requested, approved, paid for. I've gotten compliments on that piece before. I'm actually kind of proud of it. So it's one of those things where he was trying to mock me and insult me. Not trying, he was, publicly. And at this point, I had a crossroads. So this is where I'm tying into the good and bad networking approaches. I could have gotten into the mud and slung it around with him and gone to the gutter with this guy, but would that serve me in the long term? No, it wouldn't. It would make me look just as bad, if not worse, than this guy who was making outlandish claims against a film composer of high stature, and now he is intentionally mocking me. So instead, I just said, this most recent post proves my point. Best of luck to you. And that was it. I just bowed out and just let him have his little pity party and go about his way. Be very, very careful when you're doing stuff like that. When you're engaging, there's that old internet saying, don't feed the trolls. In this case, I inadvertently got into with, I think, a troll. Now, here's the biggest problem. He took one of my pieces, one of my many pieces, and summed me up as that type of composer and just put LOL. Because he had an agenda, he had an axe to grind, he wanted to mock me. He wanted to try and bait me into getting upset. Now, I'm not going to lie, it did hurt my feelings. I was like, man, that sucks. And it kind of pissed me off for maybe 10 minutes. But then I let it go. Now, this guy is touting around some music he's done. So I listened to two of his tracks. One, an EDM track, which, speaking totally objectively, was not that great. Wasn't bad, but there was nothing amazing about it. It was just kind of average, vanilla, plain, just EDM. Nothing that made me want to go, wow, this is great. Production was okay, melody was okay, but it just wasn't really like, oh my god. But then I listened to an orchestral piece that he did, and I thought it was really, really, really good. It was a good piece, a good structure and everything. Now, this piece was not written for film, and I'm not sure it would work in a film setting, but as a concert piece, it was quite nice. So I gave him the courtesy of listening to several of his pieces and making an evaluation of his work from multiple points of reference versus what he did with me, where he just grabbed something he thought, oh, this sounds like this composer, and then mocked me about it. And the other thing that's interesting to think about is the fact that, yes, I did get mad at first, but then I thought about it, I was like, well, he's linking my music, so more people are going to go click that link and play it. He's giving me PR. And I could sidestep this trap that he's trying to leave for me and take the high road. And I could be like, I'm not going to go there. Maybe that would look better upon me in the long run. So you just have to be really, really careful. You can have strong opinions online. You can express them. But try and do so in a way that doesn't go into a personal realm, doesn't insult other people, doesn't mock other people. You can have some pretty tough views, but just be professional about it. Be academic about it. Be like, this is why I think this way, and explain it. Furthermore, one of my critiques about his analysis of this film composer's work, the Hollywood film composer's work, is the fact that it wasn't very academic. It was very, very shallow, very, very surface level. Now, his rebuttal was, well, I didn't want to make it a 20-minute video. Maybe fair enough. But I've seen plenty of videos that can get pretty in-depth and at least do some bullet style analysis that can get a little more targeted on certain aspects of why they feel from an academic stance that composer A versus composer B, which one's better. My final point in this is this particular forum that I'm on Facebook. I've seen this many times where people feel like complexity means better music. I've seen people say, my music has more content than X person's music, therefore it's better. Guys and gals, get away from this mode of thinking, especially if you're working for media. Because in media, you have other things to consider. If you're working for film, you have dialogue, sound effects. You have pacing in the film. There may be spots where you don't need to do that much. You could be stepping on other areas needlessly. And if you're in video games, you have all those components I mentioned, but also you have the interactiveness element of games. And so you may not want to just do complexity just for complexity's sake. The second thing is complexity doesn't mean something is more beautiful. It just means it's more complex. Look at the music of Sadie. I think I'm saying that right. Eric Satie. Maybe it's Sadie, I don't know. Anyway, I believe he's a French composer. Genopedes, number 1, 2, 3. Played those on piano. Very simple songs. Beautiful, but simple and effective. At the end of the day, we're writing music to impact people. We're trying to make people have an emotion, whether it be on the stage, in a film, on headphones, in a video game. It doesn't matter. We're trying to impact someone and give an emotion. And so if you're doing that, then you're doing your job. And if you're getting work and you're writing even the most simplest music in the world, and the clients are happy and their players are happy, or the audience is happy and the director's happy, you're doing your job. It can be hard to keep your mouth shut. It can be hard to take the high road. It can be hard to not get in the gutter with someone when especially when they're defaming you. But you have to think about the long term as well as the short term with networking, and try and focus on what's going to be best for your brand and you. What's going to look better 10 months from now, 10 years from now for you as a brand. I guarantee you, this one guy having these opinions and mudslinging like he's doing is not going to do him any service 10 years from now, or even 10 months from now, 10 weeks from now, even maybe 10 minutes. There are several composers that privately we talked about this guy, are like, yeah, he's digging his own grave, in our opinion. It's not that and he will probably, if he sees this video, he'll probably be like, you're just jealous. There's nothing about jealousy here. I'm not jealous of you. I think you write good music. I'm disappointed that you're going about networking your stuff and doing your PR so poorly. That's where you really should grow and learn if you happen to be watching this video. Everyone else, learn from this person's mistakes and don't make the same. So, I think I did a pretty good job of not naming the composer in Hollywood that he was defaming, and not naming this guy, because I don't want to go that route. Instead, I just want to use this as a teachable moment, teachable lesson. If you like these videos, if you like what I'm doing, you want to see more, please hit me up. Like, subscribe, comment, throw out some topics you want me to cover, and more videos coming soon. Thanks, guys. See you later. Bye. Okay, so it's 7:16 in the morning. I actually forgot one thing I wanted to add from my video last night that I still need to edit. When people point to composers of 40, 50, 60 years ago, one thing they're not considering is that basically almost everything about media, films, TV, has evolved and changed. So the film scores that happened back then may not necessarily work now. They may not be what the audiences are wanting to hear. It may not be what the producers, the studios that are funding these things want to hear. It may not be what the director wants to hear. So you have to be very careful, because it's truly not an apples to apples comparison when you look at composers from the 40s and the 50s and the 60s to the composers of today, even of 20 or 30 years ago. The best example I can think of is TV show intros. Think back, even 1980s was really not that far back. And back then, the TV intros would be like 2 minutes long with everyone going, and then their name showing up. Everyone has a cameo and smiles. That doesn't happen anymore. TV intros are sometimes 4 seconds long, and that's it. So if you're a composer and you're trying to do things the way it was done 40, 50, 60 years ago, or if you're looking at concert music saying, well, film scores should be more like concert music, at the very beginning, a tiny, tiny history lesson for those that don't know, when Hollywood first started doing scores, they hired concert composers, Aaron Copland, people like that. They hired people who were mainstream classical composers and then brought them in, and they worked that way. So that's why things were very different back then than they are now, for better or worse. All right, I'm signing off.